achieving my black belt, I think, set the stage for me for, I think, the rest of my life is what I would say. It meant so much more than just that black belt because it showed me how much growth that I have grown over the past many years of starting from a white belt and now becoming a black belt, all of those things that I've accomplished. It was just so mentally, I guess, transformative for me. And anything else in life that I do, I always think back to that because I'm like, if I achieved my black belt, I can kind of do anything else that I set my mind to in life.
Welcome to another episode of the Black Belt Parenting Podcast. Today I have a really special guest and I was really excited to have him on. This is Stephen Eng.
Hi everyone.
He is a black belt from Progressive Martial Arts. And when did you get your black belt?
In December 2010.
2010. That's so long ago.
I know.
Anyway, I wanted to have him on today because he's a perfect testimonial for what black belt training can do for someone. And so I wanted to introduce him to you because I think he's a great example of, you know, the black belt parenting journey and also how you can kind of like see how achieving your black belt can transform you in other areas of your life. So welcome.
Thank you, Kathy, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about you and where you are right now in your life. So talk about, you know, what you're doing, how old you are, and things like that.
So hi, everyone. First, my name is Stephen Eng. I'm currently 30 years old, and I actually started at PMA back around in 2000, and I think, or actually around 5th grade or so is when I was first enrolled in my parents. And then since joining PMA, after achieving my black belt, I went on to become a pharmacist and currently work at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center as a bone marrow transplant clinical pharmacy specialist.
Yeah, so Steven's really like a super high achiever, and every time I follow him on social media and we are in contact, which I really love. He's done so many great things. So let's just talk about your beginnings, right?
Okay.
Why martial arts? What made your parents put you in martial arts?
Yeah, so my parents first enrolled me in martial arts mainly because they wanted me to build self-confidence and self-esteem, because I remember back in the summer camps that I was attending, I was getting bullied a lot, and I still remember back to the days where kids were throwing ice water bottles in my face, or I even got choked in a closet one time, and I would come home crying to my parents. And my mom one day was like, all right, enough is enough. Like, we need to get him enrolled in some martial arts just so I can learn how to defend myself against like either bullies or just learn how to stand up for myself in different types of situations. And having, I guess, Sifu grew up next to my dad when he was younger, so they knew that PMA was the place that they wanted to send me to, and ever since then, the rest is history.
What do you remember about like your first entrance into martial arts?
Yeah, so it's funny because I still remember the first time I walked into PMA and like who I spoke with, Crew Eric at that time, and I just remember having that conversation about what martial arts was like and what the school was about, and then going into my first class, I remember feeling kind of scared and timid or so, just because there was all these different colored belts or so, and I was just a white belt. But everyone was so inviting and so welcoming, so it was a very friendly environment that I was able to just easily adjust to as I kept coming to classes.
Can you talk about like some of the benefits you remember getting at the time that you were training? Do you remember like the things that kind of stuck with you throughout your training? Yeah,
so there definitely is a lot. I think within the immediate benefits that I would see first is just the physical benefits of, you know, being able to do more push-ups, do more sit-ups, and then slowly build in that confidence of, okay, now that I know that I can do this, I know that I can do more. So I was able to see the physical benefits from all the exercises that we were doing in classes, but then with learning the different types of martial arts styles and like learning how to kick and punch and do different combinations, then I started learning, you know, how to apply myself in different situations or in different styles of martial arts, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I was able to see those benefits continue to progress throughout the classes that I would take. But then I think the most important benefit that I got was building up my self-esteem and self-confidence, because I think from there, that kind of allowed me to do a lot of other things in life and even within martial arts or so. Because once I started building up my self-confidence, I was like, all right, now that I can believe in myself now, I can apply myself and set my mind towards other different goals and be able to achieve those goals.
So that initial, like, bully proofing that your parents were looking for, that really came to fruition, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So I really love that, because I think that's a good reason why people do martial arts. And so it did take time, though, right?
Yeah.
So what was it that kept you motivated throughout your training? Because you were training for a very long time. I want to say you started when you were like 12.
I think so, around
Yeah,
that
12.
age.
I mean, even now, Stephen still comes back to the school and trains. So
It's my second home.
Yeah, it really, like, he's always welcome, and he always jumps back in. I mean, he even comes back to assist every once in a while. So what is it that keeps pulling you back in?
So I think the number one thing is with just being at PMA, it felt like a second home to me. So it felt like my safe place, I would say. So even if I was coming in to teach classes or coming in to take classes, I always felt a sense that it felt at ease and at calm from here. So like even sometimes, even now, or so how you say I keep coming back, it's like whenever things are stressful for me in life, I know that when I kind of go back into PMA, it kind of just brings me back to that childhood, me and myself.
That's
and
great.
Just being able to feel calm and be at peace and kind of knowing that, all right, I feel like I have more of a balance in life when I'm at PMA. But I think what kept me coming back was just the family and friendly environment. Like, I always looked forward to working with you and to working with Tara and Sifu and all the other instructors, and then teaching the kids martial arts and seeing them develop and build their own self-confidence. Because some of the things that I always think about, and some of the things that have stuck with me since PMA kept me going back, was being a mentor to other students. And I think one of the biggest things that I really enjoyed from being at PMA was being able to mentor other students who were being bullied themselves, because I was able to use my experiences to help them with their experiences, and then seeing them kind of go beyond that bullying phase or so and get their self-confidence, being able to now impact other kids. That was what always motivated me to come back too.
I really like about you with your training is, like, you fully immersed yourself and trusted in the process. And I think that your parents did too.
Yeah.
So there was never a time where I had to convince your mom or your dad to be like, he has to do this. They were just willing to kind of throw you into whatever, we were asking you to, whether it be assisting or teaching or, I know your mom came in during one of your tests and she was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But she didn't question it, and she kind of went with it. I really appreciated the partnership that we had with your parents, because even now, like, I don't talk to her often, but I know I feel this connection with her because we shared in your growing up process.
For sure.
And I really think that that's key in the success of who you've become, not just like in your achievements, but in who you are as a person. Your parents are divorced, right? So I feel like that was a challenge for you too. So can you talk a little bit about how the school played a role in helping you through that?
Yeah, so I would say, you were like a second mom to me and everything and at work. But I think what PMA taught me a lot is to be grounded, and it's set up for a good foundation when we would when you guys would teach the powerful words of the month, or when I would listen to them. It's like, how do I apply these powerful words back into my life and everything, and how, if I want my life to kind of be a certain way, like in terms of having good relationships with others, how do I transcend that into like my family life, where say if I have divorced parents, and luckily now I'm very fortunate, like my family's very close. My divorced parents, we all go on vacation together, and that's something that I love about it. But I think learning how to communicate with people, number one, communicate my thoughts and my goals, and learning how to treat other people kind of with respect, and learning how to bring that into a family place, I think kind of helped me during that situation and during that process.
That's great. And your emotional maturity was, I feel like you were above and beyond sort of your peers in that way. Like, your ability to kind of take in the teaching and then internalize it and then use it was very powerful. So like that idea of, it's not just kicking and punching. Yeah. Right? And it's really about the wholeness of the experience was really big in me watching you. And for me, as a parent, like watching Stephen, because I was young and I hadn't had kids yet. Yeah. So Stephen was like one of my first experiences in like learning how to parent and seeing like, how someone can really benefit from good communication and sort of the black belt process and how I could apply that to my own kids. So, you know, you say I was like a second mom, like you're one of like my only sons because I have 2 daughters. But like, you know, watching you go through that was really great. So one of the things that was powerful was your black belt test.
Yes.
So our black belt test at Progressive Martial Arts is really rigorous. And I think Stephen and Andrew were kind of like the last to get the official like black belt. Now we have junior black belts for our kids. But you guys went through some rigorous testing. Can you talk a little bit about how that was transformative for you?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So I think that kind of achieving my black belt, I think, set the stage for me for, I think, the rest of my life is what I would say. It set up that, it's just that strong a foundation. And even still to this day, like, when that black belt test happened back in 2010 and we're in 2024 now, 14 years later, I still constantly always think back to that black belt test because what I learned most from that, and it's like the quote that I always live by now, is that a black belt is a white belt who never quit. And going through that test, it was probably one of the hardest tests I've ever taken in my life, both mentally and physically. And I even still remember to the day when we were sparring during that test and doing the multiple rounds of sparring. Crew Eric did like a clean push kick right at me in the chest, and I went to the ground. I was like, I am tired. But then everyone was like, get up, get up. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. And like, I need to get back into this. And just achieving my black belt was, even though it's like a tangible item, it meant so much more than just that black belt because it showed me how much growth that I have grown over the past many years of starting from a white belt and now becoming a black belt, all of those things that I've accomplished. So it wasn't only just like a physically demanding test or so, but it was just so mentally, I guess, transformative for me. And now that I like know that I've achieved my black belt, it's like anything else in life that I do, I always think back to that because I'm like, if I achieved my black belt, I can kind of do anything else that I set my mind to in life.
That's our hope, right?
Yeah.
Is like after people have gone through the journey of martial arts and like really persevered through the journey and then to go through that black belt test, which is like a 2-day process. Like there's physical fitness day where you have to do all of your physical fitness requirements. You're not done there. No. You have to write a 1,000-word essay about the black belt journey. And then the second test, which is like a 3-4 hour test of like just your martial arts skill and then testing that skill and like sparring. It really is after you see the kids go through that, like you physically see a difference and it's amazing. And what I like to say is like that process of like getting through to the other side really takes you to another level, right?
For sure. I definitely agree.
And how old were you when you did that?
I know I was a sophomore in college, so I'm not sure what age.
Yeah, I think like 16, 17.
Around,
I think you
both
you and Andrew like
16, 17 or so.
So now, having said that, like what are some things that you've achieved because you've done that?
Yeah, so it's funny. Yeah, so that quote, black belt is a white belt who never quit, I've applied that so much in my professional life and my personal life.
Wow.
So professionally, you know, I was able to become the president for several different organizations for my fraternity in college and for my New York City pharmacy organization. And I think also so much of that I got from learning how to be from being an instructor at PMA because I learned how to be an effective leader. I learned how to kind of manage a group or hold myself in those leadership positions in a way that, you know, you're able to kind of bring everyone along with you. And it's not just like you're a leader and everyone else is here. I kind of learned how to be an effective leader to the point where, you know, people are enjoying this journey with me or enjoying me being their president. So that I was able to accomplish. And then I was also able to accomplish my big time goal, achieve my dream job of becoming a bone marrow transplant clinical pharmacy specialist, which I absolutely knew that I wanted to work in oncology and I wanted to do. And just going through the process of applying for residency, going through my 2 years of rigorous residency training to get to the job to where I am today, I was able to do that because I was always in that mindset of a black belt is a white belt who never quit. And when things got tough and when I've had those moments where it's like, can I actually do this? Should I just quit and everything? I just thought back to my black belt, and that's what would power me through that.
That's great.
So professionally, those were some of the biggest accomplishments. And then personally, I was able to run a marathon. And I mean, you were the one who first inspired me to start running, because after seeing
I've only done one.
I know, but after seeing you do a marathon, I was like, whoa, this looks pretty cool. And I did cross country back in high school, but fell off of it. But then seeing you run the marathon, I was like, oh, this is another like goal that I could potentially go towards. And it definitely is a hard goal for sure.
It is. And how many have you run?
5 marathons now, and I think like 10 half marathons or so.
Yeah.
But the goal is still to do many more marathons. But the marathon is just, one of the most physically demanding things. But I still remember to the New York City Marathon 2 years ago, where I started having full body cramps at like mile 10. And I was like, I have 16 more miles left. Like,
I remember that marathon.
I was like, how am I going to accomplish this? And I still remember getting pulled off of the course by the police, because they were like, he's cramping, and like they wanted to take me out on an ambulance. But I was like, there's no way that I'm going out, because I was like, I've trained so hard for this. Even if I have to crawl across the finish line, I'm going to do that. But that entire time I was like, a black belt is a white belt who never quit. And that literally got me to across the finish line. So that was some of the personal things. I know, yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that I want to ask you is like, because a lot of kids are like, I want to quit.
Yeah.
Like, why should they stay?
I would say it's probably hard to realize now in the moment where you are in life, and I certainly didn't realize all the benefits that I was getting out of martial arts, because, you walk into the martial arts school and you think, I'm just going to be learning self-defense and learning how to defend myself in those situations, but the life lessons and just the amount of lessons that you get that can be applied in your personal life and set you up for so much success, I think is one of the biggest reasons to stay, because looking back on my experience as a martial arts student to instructor and to where I am today, I know that I would not have as many accomplishments as I have, or have the experience that I haven't had if I haven't been enrolled or started martial arts. And I always tell my parents, and I always tell other people too, that one of the best decisions that my parents ever did for me was enrolling me in martial arts school. Because the day that I walked into PMA, I think is the day that kind of just changed the whole trajectory of my life or so.
Right. That's so powerful, and it's very touching for me, because that's my dream for every child that walks into the school, and when I see it come to life, that's why whenever you walk back in the door, I light up, because it reminds me of why I do what I do. Aww. And I hope that everybody kind of gets that experience. And sometimes it doesn't happen for people, and sometimes it does, but my hope is that and it's true. It's like, it's not just you. Like, I've had other black belts come into the school and they have the same story, and maybe they don't realize it at the time that it did happen. Yeah. But then later on in life, they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is why I did this. And so, like, I hope that that's the case for a lot of people.
Me too, because I think going through that whole process where it's like, you want to quit and everything, but as long as, if you stick through, and that's what I even teach, even if I teach, when I teach my residents or pharmacy learners or so, because when the going gets tough, it's like, you don't want to quit. You want to be able to see it through, because then that's going to help build you up mentally and develop so much self-esteem and set you up for so many other things in life. So I know martial arts and achieving your black belt, it definitely was not an easy journey at all. But I know if students stick with it and achieve their black belts, when they look back on their journey, they're going to be able to use that journey and apply so much of that journey and just that mental mindset to the rest of their different assets or parts in life.
And I like to say, like, I think martial arts is a great example for it, but I think that goes with anything that you start, right? Yeah. So, like, if any activity that your child or that you want to do, right, you have to be able to stick it through to the end, right? Even if it's like you just committed to a year, like, finish the year, right? Like, I feel like that's, because when I ran the marathon too, like, I cramped up at mile 19, and I was like, I don't know, man.
Hard.
I know, like,
you're like, am I going to finish this?
But it really is like a metaphor for life, right? And that whole idea of, like, I got through, we tested for our Thai boxing instructorship together.
That was another challenge. Yeah, that was
right?
another challenge and test.
And, like, if we could do that, I could finish this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, that whole thing of, like, you have this thing behind you that built up your confidence to finish something, it really pushes you to, like metaphorically, the finish line for everything, right? Anything that you do in your life. So,
I agree.
I think that your journey has been really, and you're so young and you have so much that you have left to do, but I have so much confidence in you and your mental fortitude and your grit. And what was really great with Stephen is, like, he also became an instructor at the school. Like, to have him teach at such a young age, our warrior program and even the younger kids, it says a lot about who you are and like your confidence to build other people up. And so can you give a story of like something that happened with you with one of the kids and like how you affected them? Do you remember anything like that?
Yeah, one of my favorite things about being at PMA was being an instructor and being able to see the students. And I guess that's kind of how like you were like to me, because you see these students progress and you see them achieve different things either in martial arts or in life, and just knowing that you were able to play a part in that is a very rewarding and fulfilling experience. And I always think back to like some of my days when being a mentor for other students when we had the SWAT team back then. And I remember I would mentor this student who was being bullied, and we would meet weekly and stuff and talk about just the experiences of the situations that he was going through, of how he was dealing with the bullies, why they were bullying him, and kind of being able to just overall talk about it and everything, create that safe space for the student. And eventually that student was able to develop himself more physically by just doing martial arts, but then taking the lessons that we would talk about in our like little mentoring sessions and apply that in those situations where it's say, okay, next time you're being bullied, you know, I want you to not like think of these things I want you to think of these things in terms of I am not who they say I am. I have self-confidence and I am X, Y, and Z. And being able to have those positive affirmations, I think really helped the student. And now that student, I think, has just flourished or so. And whenever I see that student too, it's like whenever I guess I come into the school, whenever I see that student, I was like, a smile just comes to my face and everything.
And it makes you want to be more of that in your community.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so it's not just like isolated to like that one incident. Like now you kind of want to take yourself out and like put yourself out there to be that for other people. Because I know that you do that in the pharmacy community too, with your students and with sort of the whole community at large, right?
Yeah, I think it's just learning or being an instructor at PMA was just also taught me how to be a role model for other people, but in the sense that I've had so much guidance and mentorship in my life, like say from my pharmacy instructors, from you guys at PMA, that it's like almost paying it forward. Like I want to be able to help other like pharmacy learners or even students get to where they want to be. And how you guys did that for me is something that I definitely want to be able to continue doing for other people. And it definitely is a rewarding experience.
It is, and you're just like, for me, like Stephen's like the ultimate example in like application. You'll hear something and you'll just completely apply it. So the coachability aspect of you is like, as a teacher, it's really rewarding because like you just, because you know, even with my own kids, if I say something, they don't necessarily listen. But like,
I've been guilty of that too.
But that's the thing. Like that's why I think the partnership with other community members is really important, because like with teachers and coaches, like they can be that extra ear for like, oh, okay, maybe I should do that. But I mean, I think you're a great example of that. Is like, you know, that application of some of the concepts really is fruitful later on in life. And besides you being a great achiever, like I think who you are as a person is really what we're most proud of at Progressive Martial Arts. Like if we're going to have a representative of, I remember when you were in the SWAT team, which is like our leadership team, like all the black belt candidates have to do 100 hours of service. And Stephen would even be like, tell the other kids if they're wearing like a PMA shirt in the community, they better behave themselves. And like to hear another kid say that, you know, what I'm thinking and like what we represent, it's like huge, you know, because you're not just representing yourself, you're representing a whole community, right?
Exactly. It's, you know, it's so funny. I thought about that this morning.
You
too,
did?
Because, you know how, even though I don't train in as much anymore, it's so funny. When I put on the PMA shirt today, it kind of brought back like a lot of different things or so. Like, for example, I was just like, how I am in the community. I'm representing PMA, or even working for you guys or so. I think it's so funny. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned that I think has also helped me professionally was, like say, I was supposed to be working from 2 to 8. It's like if you show up at 2 o'clock, you're late.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's like I always show up at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier. So, and it's when I put on that shirt today, it kind of brought me back. And so when we needed to be here today, I was like, I need to be there 10, 15 minutes early and stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
So.
I think you were here before me.
Yeah.
That's like you were barking.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which I think is huge, is like people these days they don't do a lot of attribution. So they don't acknowledge sort of what got them to the place where they are. And you're big about that. And I don't know, maybe that came from your parents or but it's great because you're always constantly keeping that bridge, and you don't ever burn your bridges, and you're always like maintaining relationships. And it's hard. You're a busy person. So what made you like that?
Yeah. The perfect thing is, back to that quote, a black belt is a white belt who never quit, and within that quote, it literally says white belt, and that still reminds me about where I was and where I began and just the journey that I went to. So, even though I've achieved, I'm very proud of the achievements that I've done and stuff, but I'm still able to be humble about it because I still remember that journey. I still remember from where I started. I can still think back to the kid who had low self-esteem and low confidence, and all the people that got me to where I am today. I have so much to be thankful for. So it's like my whole life really revolves around that quote, because I think that's what keeps me humble, and that just keeps me appreciative for everything that everyone has done for me, and allows me to be able to do that for other people as well too.
That's great, because a lot of people lose sight of like where they came from, and like, they get so much and they don't remember sort of the beginnings, and like how important that is to always be a learner. Right.
Yeah.
And to always be open. Yeah. And to always be open to other people and what they can contribute to you. Right.
Yeah.
And never to take anybody else for granted. So
completely agree. Because it's also like, you never know, because you encounter, like how we say pharmacy is such a small world, like the martial arts community is a small world, or any area you go to in life is going to be a small world, and you're bound to know or bump into someone who knows someone else, and there's a mutual connection. So just being able to be that humble person, treat people with respect, I think will help you get a long way in life. And that's definitely what helped me out as well, too.
I think you're a gift. And I really hope that you guys appreciated this episode with Stephen. And I always want to present him, because for me, he's just a representative of somebody who I'm really grateful to have in my life. And as much as he feels like progressive martial arts has contributed to him, so too have you contributed back to us. Just as who you are, right? It has nothing to do with like what you've done, but just who you are to us. It's always really special, because Stephen's always willing to be there and be part of the community, and he holds a special place at this school. So thank you so much for doing this
Kathy.
today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this podcast and talking with you.
Okay, awesome. Maybe you'll join us again another time.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions, or you want to reach out and learn more about Stephen or ask him any questions, I know some parents might have some, really real life questions, especially if your kids are going through it right now. Stephen's a really great resource for them. You can always contact us at progressivemartialarts.com, or you can go to blackbeltparentingpodcast.com, and you can follow us on our social media pages and wherever you're watching this. Remember, stay resilient, be kind and compassionate to yourself, and keep nurturing those black belt parenting skills. The Black Belt Parenting Podcast is produced and recorded by Press Record Studios.